So there's everything set up, and I'm now going to put the needle down into the first section and bring it out underneath the kettle stitch. I'm going to do the whole thing from the back later on, so you'll be able to see a bit more clearly. So I'm just going to tilt it up a bit, and I'm now bringing the first thread over the top of the core, holding it in place with my thumb and bringing it round a second time. And that is the second turn. When you come over for the second time, that is the turn, because the locking, which we do with the second thread, the gold thread, is going to bring that back firmly so that that makes that second turn. I'll zoom in later on. I think it's a bit difficult to see probably, but I'll go on for a little bit and then I'll bring the camera a bit closer. That's 2 turns with the yellow. The second turn will come back into the book. Grey again, and this time I'm going to tie down, as it will help to firm everything up. I usually tie down about every other one, but it's such a little book that I think probably by the time I've got it fairly firm, it'll be almost at the end. When you've got a big headband, then you can tie down every other time you get to the grey, but I think in this case it's going to be each one. That's the second turn of that. And now I'm going to try to zoom in a little bit. It's more helpful. The trouble is it's rather difficult to get at because of where the camera is, but I'll do my best. So that's coming over, and slipped there. Your left thumb has got to hold the thread upright so that you get those turns absolutely vertical, and the thread comes around over the top of the first one to lock over the top, and I'm going to tie down again here. Sometimes it's a bit difficult to get the needle through, but very often it's because you're trying to go through turns of paper where the shoulder is, but this isn't in there because I can take that needle out now. Once the headband core is firm, you can take out the needle that's holding it. Now I've gone too far over there, so I'm going to come out again and go in a second time. If you don't get the needle going down exactly where it is, then you'll get a gap in the headbanding, and that won't look very nice. So I'm just rethreading. There we go. So I'm going to come in again at the right place, a bit further to the left. That's better. That would mean that that's sitting nicely next to the other one, so I shouldn't have a gap there. So it's over and under. Very difficult to describe in words, this process. In fact, almost impossible. So it's easier if you just make sure every time that you're locking from the left, and that where you tie down, you're tying down where you are, not too far forward. Some people mark the middle of each section, as I think I may have said before, but I find that it's really easier just to do it where you are and do it as appropriate. Some people also say you shouldn't tie down too much because it makes the spine too wide where it is, but I've never found that a problem myself. So it's such a little book that I'm very nearly at the end, so I'm just going to do probably another turn of each colour. So there's probably the last grey going down into the back of the book. And coming over and I'll do another 2 turns of yellow, and I think that'll be enough. You don't want to overdo the headband. If you go too far, it hinders the closing of the book. So that's at the end, and I'm going to take it right round to the back a second time and take the grey round as well, and that will be fine. That's very nearly at the end, and I don't want it any closer than that. So I'm now just going to put a bit of glue on the back, just to hold down those threads. That's the back of the spine. You can see where the threads have been just stuck across the back, and that should be fine. And that's the front. So what I'm going to do now is exactly the same thing, but with the camera differently angled, so that you can see the spine of the book. So I'm going to come out in the middle of the first section, or near the middle, underneath the kettle stitch. You can see I've avoided the headband, I've avoided the end paper there, and I'm bringing the knot out, and then I'm going to pull it back again. I come over the top. In fact, I'm going to tangle it up a little bit. Come over the top with the grey, turn round. The core will twist about a bit, but it's all right, you just pull it back again. The main thing to do, remember, with this is that your left thumb is always holding that turn in position, and you need to keep those threads absolutely vertical. The core will shift about a bit until it's had a couple of turns with the grey, but you've got to hold it firm, and you need to make sure it doesn't walk forward and sort of leave the spine behind. It's got to be curving round the back of the spine of the book. So I'm going in where I am. As I said, some people mark middles of sections, but I think the sections are a bit varied in size, and it's quite difficult to do that really. So I'm just going to make sure that that's pushed well back, and yet it stays vertical. You don't want to push it backwards so it sort of tilts backwards, but I'm coming over there. And gold again. Because it's such a little book, I'm going to be tying down pretty well every time, because I usually like to tie down the first 3 grey turns, or the lead colour turns, and by the time I've got to the 3rd turn, I'm pretty well halfway there. So, but I will perhaps miss out a couple in the middle. You can see now that the core is sitting more comfortably. It's beginning to go round the shape of the spine and not keep pulling forward, because it's now being held by those stitches. And the whole purpose of this is, to, as I said earlier, is to strengthen the back of the book when it's pulled out of the bookshelf. Yeah, I'll not turn down there. I'll just do a couple of greys. You can also, of course, have 3 colour headbands. That's fine. You just need to remember that you've always got to come from the left, so that if you've got 3 colours, your 3rd colour's always got to go back to the left, so it locks. It means you've got a slightly irregular kind of beading, the little row of stitches at the bottom, just above the top of the book. But here we've got to the point where the gold thread is getting a bit short, so I'm going to have to possibly hold it instead of tucking it into the book, but I think we'll probably manage. So I'm going to have a couple more turns of grey. I'm going to tie down now because we're getting close to the other end. Some people say that the thickness of the spine is affected by the number of times you tie down. I've never noticed that myself, but some of the experts think it's best not to add to the bulk. But as I say, I've never noticed it myself. I don't think it makes any appreciable difference really. I'm nearly at the end now. I'll just do a couple of yellow and then I'm going to bring that right round to the back, and then bring the grey round again, locking everything in place. Take the needles out. This needle I could have taken out earlier. That's only just there to hold the core in place. And I'm just going to put a bit of glue just to hold it. The whole of the back of the spine is going to be covered by paper and stuff quite soon, so we don't need to worry about all that. So I'll just cut it off and leave it for the moment. And the next stage is to put the paper backing on the spine, and that will be fill up the gaps and go over some of the cords and then smooth it all down so it'll be ready for covering.